You just got to see it. There's no way to really describe it.
I can smell that video right now.
It is undescribable. You know, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. This one might be worth 2,000.
I'm in there. Where? Welcome back to episode 5 of the Loggerhead Golf Podcast. Really exciting week this week as we have a home event here in North Carolina in Charlotte, the Wells Fargo. Before we get into it, who's your picks?
Is Roy going to be there?
As of right now.
Yeah. I'll be political and take Rory then.
Oh, how nice of you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb. Cameron Young.
That's a good pick. He's been playing well.
Jason Day.
I was going to say,
we got to take your Jason Day.
We knew.
Yeah, he's got a win there already. It's hard not to rule Justin Thomas or even, it's tough to say, but Fowler's always a favorite. Is he in the field this week? It being an elevated event for the first time?
I don't know.
Well, he played in Phoenix, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But I think we can't not say Max Homa.
Yeah.
He's won twice there in the last 4 years. You know, it's one of those golf courses people either play well or they do not.
So he plays it well, and I think it kind of reminds him of like Riviera. Similar kind of, I think.
That California layout.
Well, not even that, just like looks off the tees. On some of those holes.
You know, and John Rahm backed out, which obviously he's played every single tournament in the last month and a half, essentially. But also not surprised to see him drop out because he usually doesn't play well at Quail.
Yeah.
You know, we all know it, especially being pretty close to us. It's a big golf course.
It is that for sure.
I think it's kind of surprising Scheffler is backed out as well. And then Finau, understandably, decommitted, but coming off of a great weekend, obviously he's going to spend some R&R with his family, but with him playing such good golf, you'd think he'd want to carry that motivation in.
Which I think that kind of begs a question with these elevated or designated events. If the whole point of creating those was that all the top players played in them, had to play in them, what does it mean for them when there's so many of them backing out?
Yeah, especially if you look, as we alluded to, this is the first one Rory's even played in.
Right.
So I think it's kind of an interesting concept that these players created the event, had a meeting about the event, and now they're decommitting or just not showing up. And like this week's $20 million and the winner's $3.8 million. Yeah,
why would you not want to play in that?
Even if you, it's like Kevin Kistner said, you make the cut, they pay a lot of money for last place in an event like this.
Golf, it's almost like they've gotten to a point where they're making so much money, they can really handpick and choose where exactly they want to play. It's not for the money. The top 12 players in the world, now, granted, trust me, they're still thinking about how much they're making at the end of the year, but at the same time, it's, they're more chasing the win. So if they don't feel comfortable going to a golf course where they think they can't win, they don't care what the price tag's on the event. They're not going to show up.
I just think that defeats the purpose of the elevated event.
Well, this year the PGA Tour had to roll out something, right? Next year is the first year of true designated events to where the top 75 players have to play those events. There's no May. You don't pick and they have to play. This year they created designated events, but it's still a normal PGA Tour schedule. So it was inevitable that we were going to see people back out of a lot of these elevated events.
What do we think, since Rory was assessed a penalty for the one that he missed? Are they going to do that to Scheffler and Rahm and Finau for pulling out? Or why do we think there's separation there, that Rory's getting penalized for it, and now we've got 3 other top 10 players in the world decommitting?
It's because Rory, every PGA Tour player, and especially now with the PIP, you have to play a new event every year, and you have to play so many events a year. All the other players have already met their quota.
Gotcha.
Rory did not. So that's ultimately why he got penalized, or fined, not penalized, fined for it. Out of money that he didn't already have.
I was going to say, it's out of, it wasn't really.
I have no clue what's going on with the PIP. I think it's the most ridiculous thing. But
how do we feel about ticket prices?
Yeah, a little salty. Growing up in Gastonia, obviously I tried to go every year. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, especially since those are the best days to kind of get autographs. And I was fortunate enough to, my latter part of my golf career, getting early in, working on the vans or getting to shadow on the vans, I got to see it from a whole new perspective. But it going from 45 or 55 bucks for a day pass to 90, plus now parking passes. Like if you pay to, now you have to pay to park. Yeah. It's never been done until I think either last year or the year before they started. It's $25 this year. But if you park at South Park Mall, it's $31. So I just think, growing the game and raising these prices to this amount with everything factored in, like just because it's an elevated event doesn't mean
I say it's
less people there.
It's a big jump up in price, obviously
it's double
for spectators that want to go,
Yeah.
And then we obviously see that the golfers, some of the top players aren't necessarily taking these events seriously, so it doesn't, to me, match up and go hand in hand.
Well,
the ticket
especially if
price
you're
doesn't match what the product they're offering is, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, think about if you're a corporate sponsor or you're paying that $200 ticket fee to get into these lucrative spots, and then let's say you wanted to watch Finau or Scheffler play, and you've booked a hotel, you've paid your ticket fees, parking fees. I mean, you might have $1,000, $3,000 for this week, and then these players pull out. I mean, how would that make you feel?
It's an expensive week for sure.
Yeah, the field is still stacked.
Yeah,
it's still a great field.
The field is still stacked. I mean, I don't, and that's the tough thing, because with these certain players dropping out, it's not, the Wells Fargo has never been the RBC heritage, right? It's always been a higher, better field tournament on the schedule.
Yeah, they have always attracted a good field.
You've always attracted a great field. And it's a testament to the golf course. Golf course is always in extremely good shape, so a lot of players like to play there, but they're not going to – I don't see why the prices were raised, but the corporate sponsors would be all right.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the last person I feel bad for in that take. I feel bad for the kids like yourself that grew up near there. He needs to take a week off, but number one golfer, Masters champion John Rahm ain't gonna be there, so
Right.
it's tough. But I mean, happens every week.
Inflation's hitting Wells Fargo hard.
I would say what does the NBA called it? Load management, right? Where all their players back out every single game and don't play for load management. It's an undisclosed injury or whatever that means. It looks like the PGA Tour has adopted that model.
Yeah. Well, I think, just to bring it up real quick, our hometown hero from Gastonia has always been Harold Varner III, obviously coming up, making on tour. It'll be interesting not seeing him there this year because traditionally speaking, he himself generates an enormous crowd. So hopefully things will change and maybe he'll be
He had a
back
good
there
time
next
in
year.
Singapore last week.
Absolutely.
They won. The Range Goats.
Yeah.
One of the best logos in golf.
It is a good look.
A lot of the live logos are extremely bad.
Yeah,
The
but that
Range
one's
Goats
good.
is really good.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah, that was the interesting thing, and we'll kind of hop back into Wells, but I had to go without saying Taylor Gooch won back-to-back weeks on the Live Tour. He's not in the U.S. Open field. They pulled his exemption.
Yeah.
Because he was technically exempt because he made it to East Lake last year.
Right.
But since he left, they pulled his exemption.
What's his official World Golf ranking now? Because they don't collect World Golf ranking points, but obviously he's playing good golf.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in golf. People in golf are using a new kind of ranking system. I think it's data points ranking or something like that. He's still in the top. I think he's still in the top 100, but it's Taylor Gooch not being at the U.S. Open, a little bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah, I mean, also one of the hottest players in golf right now.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the point too, back to the Wells though, not having local guys like Varner. You still got a local guy this week that Monday qualified in, right? Trace Crow, Monday qualifier, got in yesterday. He's from Charlotte. Well, last week he was the first alternate, got in late, made the cut, needed to finish top 25 on the Corn Ferry to get into the reshuffle. Finishes 11th, and then this week Monday qualifies into the Wells Fargo.
I think that's his third successful Monday Q this season. So obviously playing really good in the
He's playing
Mondays.
some good
How
golf,
about
too.
that week?
Or a couple weeks. Yeah, well, I guess 1 week. Yeah.
Yeah. Bodes to the point too, though. What are the players that have taken this time off, right? But you're going into a large event. So like the Rorys, he hasn't played in a few weeks. A lot of the players going into Wells Fargo haven't played in the last week. What do you think they were doing with their games to get prepared for this week?
Yeah, what were some things they're working on or cleaning up to get ready for tournaments? I mean, honestly, I think with Rory specifically, he's probably working on some putting stuff.
Rory's your guy this week, so you gotta you gotta hyper analyze him.
If we look at how he played at Augusta, he didn't putt all that well. So I think he spent some time on the putting green.
Do we think he changes
I was
putters?
going to say,
Yeah.
does
Did
he
he go back
to
to
the spider?
I think he needs to, yeah.
Putted statistically the best with it and won the most titles with it so far. So
That always, but we all know this, how mental this game is. It's always funny to see players, they just won, and how hard it is to win a professional golf event. Doesn't matter what tour you're on. To see them have the equipment, win, and the very next week switch their clubs. Justin Rose.
Yeah, Hideki Matsuyama is notoriously the worst.
Yeah.
He travels with minimally 4 putters a week. And the picture that I love the most was this year's Dell Match Play. He had 34 graphite design shafts, iomic grips, laying on the range, different tipping, different lengths, 34. And he just hit shafts for 2.5 hours.
I'll say,
It's a
but
lot of work.
let's relate this to majority of our customers and clients and our friends and our peers, right? How many people do you see that say, they have a 7-wood in their bag that they're like, this is my favorite club in the world. I've had it for 35 years.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
It's almost like on one end of the spectrum, the PGA Tour, they're going to switch clubs every single week. And then we have the opposite end that won't ever switch clubs.
They're afraid to change a golf club.
They're afraid to change the golf club. I think it's so funny how crazy this game is and what the mind can do, because it's a confidence game for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And that's ultimately why all of these players, even though they won, they're lacking confidence in that specific club. Obviously, Rory's always lacked confidence in putting. That's always been his Achilles heel. If he could putt, he would win everything. But obviously, great ball striking also wins golf tournaments. So he's been fortunate in that aspect. But it's be interesting to see what he does with the putter.
Well, I think, too, with Quail, driving accuracy, especially now that they've changed the whole the layout of the golf course as a whole. And statistically speaking, Quail's one of the only courses throughout the regular season where the rough is a little thicker. Mm-hmm. So they tend to have a little bit harder time getting up and down if they're not hitting fairways at Quail, especially with the slope of the greens.
Yeah, man, I think driving accuracy is pretty important there. It is a long golf course, quite obviously, but it is also a fairly tight golf course. I mean, you
can get in trouble quick.
You can get in trouble pretty quick out there. So,
Yep.
with it being tree lined, also too, I think they're playing a lot more shots off the tee. It's not just bombing it straight down the fairway.
Yeah, they're not just ripping and gripping it. They're
Right.
actually having to think on the tee box where they want to hit it, where they want to land it, and what the consequences are if they don't hit that spot.
And shaping shots as well too. What are some things that the tournament players this week are doing to prep?
I'd probably say the easiest thing, and this is something that every single golfer can do going into their round, whether you're a tournament player or not, they're looking at the weather.
Yeah.
They're looking at the weather. I think that's probably a lot of people. Now, the best golfers in the world, they're extremely talented. But they're also the most prepared, right? And that's how it is in every single sport. The best athletes are always the most prepared. Guaranteed last week, while they're back at home, wherever they live, they're looking at the weather, seeing what's going on, and then packing their golf bags with what they would need. Could be like Hideki, where you have 30 clubs in your bag.
Yeah.
And you're going to, which, that's probably the first thing I would say, is the easiest thing that every single golfer can do. That's what I do.
I was going to say, it sounds stupid, but that's the first thing you should be thinking of. What are the conditions you're going to be playing in? Mm-hmm. What clothes do I need to pack with me to go to this tournament?
I can look at the weather and still not prepare correctly.
In North Carolina, for sure.
Well, I think the biggest thing, too, is how's that weather going to affect shaping of the golf ball in terms of hitting these shots. As we experienced yesterday, 25, 26 mile an hour winds the entire day. So 8-iron from 200 and 5-iron from 120 and either go long or come up short. So I think that's the one thing as they kind of prepare for any tournament really is as the weather plays a big factor, it also plays a factor in their distances. And so I think coming into it, whether they're using a flight scope or TrackMan or GC Quad, some players even set elevation up to kind of prepare for those yardages.
Yeah. What else would you guys say? What would probably be the next thing a player's probably looking at, or even yourself?
I was gonna say, for myself, next thing if I've looked at the weather, for me, I'm looking at myself. How do I feel? How have I been playing? I always like to be a little bit more introspective and thinking about internally the things that I want to accomplish for that week or for that tournament. So what are my goals going into it? Why am I playing in that tournament? What do I hope to achieve? So I have to set some objectives so that when I go to the event, I have some objectives to accomplish. After that, just a little bit of practice.
Yeah.
I've never been one to practice a ton. But just hitting a few golf balls. I'm leading up to a tournament. I really don't want to have a lot of swing thoughts. I really don't want to have any swing thoughts, to be totally honest. I just want to hit shots. So I just try to, when I practice, try to get comfortable with my natural swing, not trying to do too much of anything with anything. What about you?
Well, I mean, I'm fresh. I essentially had a 3-week prep time leading up to the U.S. Open qualifier last week. I make sure that I always take care of the things I can control, right?
Correct.
I'm not the most healthy person. I do not walk a lot. I knew I was going to have to walk 18 holes. I'm not in the best shape. I've been trying to work on that, workout and stuff. So essentially a month leading up, I told myself I'm going to cut out, I don't drink a lot, but I cut out alcohol. Like I wanted to make sure my body was going to feel the best it could for 18 holes of golf, right? I probably should do that all the time. I should want my body to feel great every single day, but I cut out all alcohol consumption for a few weeks leading up to that tournament, just to make sure that there's no excuses, right? Like I was drinking water like crazy, hydrated, because I wanted to make sure the things I can control, I did 100%.
Right, you have to control what you can control, and the only thing you can control is yourself.
For sure.
And let me preface also with this saying that the reason why I didn't mention anything about my golf clubs is because I should already have those set.
That's a good point.
My golf bag should already be set and ready for tournaments before trying to get ready for a tournament.
Yeah, and if you're a tournament player, now those guys this week are making adjustments, but for the most
do it
part,
for a living. They do it every week.
But for the most part, every tournament player kind of already has an idea of what they may need, right? If something's off in your golf bag, you need to have that option close to you.
Right,
KT?
I think kind of going back to that 7-wood thing is some of these players this week are going to take one of those extra fairway woods out and probably put a long iron in just to give them more options off the tee box to try to control the margin of error.
Now, that going to that is something that I will do for events. I carry either a 2-iron or a 3 hybrid. Depending on the golf tournament, I'll decide on which one of those 2 clubs I'm putting in the bag for that event. If it's a golf course that I feel like I want a second option off the tee, I want something to hit besides driver on some shorter par 4s or some tight par 4s, I throw the 2-iron in the bag. I feel much more comfortable with that off of the tee than what I do hitting a 3-wood off the tee.
Yeah.
But now if it's a golf course, I feel like that kind of 235 to 240 yardage is going to be important on par 5s. I'm probably taking the 2-iron out and putting the hybrid in. Because the hybrid, I hit it a little bit higher and it lands a little bit softer.
Well, we talked about it last episode, but I put those 2 clubs in the bag and took a wedge out.
Right.
And it's funny, actually, in the qualifier, it was really good weather for essentially 12 holes. The back 9, it started getting super windy and rainy, but I wore out the 2-iron and I had hybrids into hole. It worked out.
Both of them.
It worked out perfectly. Yeah. Rather than probably when I was playing more tournament golf, I probably was actually less prepared than I was last week. Right. And I think that just goes with kind of time, right, and growth, maturity. I made sure probably the next step after kind of thinking about how I wanted to feel going into the event, I wanted to make sure that if I had a swing thought, that's what I'm sticking with.
Correct.
Right. Now, I did not do that the day before the round. Now, me and my dad were still on the range after my practice round, just kind of looking at some things. But I had one swing thought, and that's what I stuck with.
You're not trying to overhaul the golf swing the night before.
And that's something that every single golfer, I tell a lot of my students, in our lessons, you drill on the range, and when you get on the golf course, you play golf.
Correct.
Right. So that goes into prep, right? We're not just talking about tournament prep. If a lot of the weekend warriors, that is their tournaments. You can do the same thing. You can do the same thing.
I was going to say for sure, and let's touch on too as well about the hybrid 2-iron kind of scenario again, right quick. If I'm playing a golf course I've never played before, I'm playing my practice round before the event, I take both clubs with me.
Oh, yeah. You have 15, 16 clubs in the bag.
Right. And that practice round is my time to figure out what that set makeup's going to be for that golf course.
I was going to say real quick, we're in the member guest season.
Right.
Or member season at a lot of the local.
Member guest,
member guest. I mean, I would say majority of our clients, that's something they can do as well. I would say we probably see too many people fall in love with this same set of golf clubs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's kind of a cliche, but think outside the box. Don't be afraid to try something new in your golf equipment. You never know what's going to really...
Throw a chipper in your bag.
Yeah, right? I mean...
Whatever works. 1961 pitching wedge. Worked for me.
Yeah, don't be afraid to try something different. I say now, talking about, you kind of alluded to like drills if you're working on the range and stuff. I typically like to have one simple drill I can use or practice that puts me into a good feeling or good rhythm. We know my swing is very fast.
It's all rhythm based.
Yeah, I've got a fast tempo. Nick Price has never seen a golf swing so quick. So it's something I always try to work on, especially leading up to a tournament. And my one swing thoughts is smoothing out, slowing down my tempo. So I work on a couple little drills that I have to help me do that. If that's my one swing thought, that's what it usually is. Kind of going on further with tournament prep, practice rounds. What are you trying to accomplish in a practice round?
I'm trying to hit quality golf shots. I'm not trying to shoot a score. I'm trying to really map out where I want to play that golf hole from.
Correct.
And I was going to bring this up real quick. Now, I use a golf course management system that's a little different than just the cliche sayings of, you should hit. Like I use the decade system. So I already have, with our yardage books, I already have it mapped out at 300 yards, fairways 23 yards wide. I'm not hitting a driver at 275. It's 38 yards wide. Like I know before I even show up to the practice round, typically what my game plan is for what clubs I'm going to hit essentially on every shot. And it's all based off math. So it's based off of scoring averages from specific yardages based off PGA Tour averages. So, I know that if there's a hole out there that is averaging, from 100 yards, 2.81 strokes, and then from 120 yards, it's averaging 3.2, I'm going to try to hit it to the 100-yard mark. I'm not going to lay too far back. So I'm being super specific before I go into the practice round. Now, during the actual practice round...
I was going to say, that sounds pretty scientific. I don't think I could handle all that.
It's super easy. It's math-based. I tell people But at the same time, that's knowing your dispersion rates.
I didn't realize you were that smart to figure that stuff out.
Well, the jury's still out on that one, so...
I think during the practice round, too, where I see people make mistakes is they don't play a practice round. They play an 18-hole round of golf.
I was going to say, now, I don't mind when I'm playing a practice round. Number one, like you mentioned, I'm there to figure out my strategy for each of the golf holes on the golf course and start to develop a game plan for what I want to do and how I want to approach the round of golf as a whole. Mm-hmm. Typically, I'm a fairly aggressive golfer, so I'm probably not going to lay back off the tee on many shots. So, like your decade system doesn't do me a lot of good.
It does. No, it does actually.
I'm hitting driver everywhere.
I'll say, if anything, what decade has proven, that's why it's become so popular, is that bomb and gouge works.
Right.
So trust me, I don't lay back.
So I'm there to figure out my game plan. Now, that being said, I do like to play with other people in my practice. I don't want to play by myself. I want to play with other good golfers in the practice round because I want to see how they game plan and strategize throughout a golf hole. Because they might look at a golf hole and approach it in a way I didn't see, and I might think that's better than how I approached it. So that helps me out as well, too. Plus, it just kind of helps you keep you loose. I don't mind playing a little game in a practice round, but I'm not finishing out. I'm not keeping my score. So
I think hitting multiple shots, too, like just because you land in the fairway from your tee shot during the practice round, take a ball or two get in the rough, get behind a tree, work on those trajectories with intention.
I'll be all honest. For me, it's all about managing energy expenditure. I don't like to hit a whole lot of extra shots. Now I'll hit some chips and putts, but as far as tee shots, unless it's just a tee shot, a hole I feel is very tricky for me. Generally, it's going to be a cut tee shot. I might hit a couple extra drives there, but
Balls 3 yards.
huh?
What?
I mean, my cut draws 3 yards. I can't help it.
Well, he had an amazing toe shank yesterday.
Yeah, it was a nice cut.
There was no prep for yesterday. by
Yeah,
the way.
right. Yesterday was a slap and giggle. I mean, let's be honest. But it was a lot of fun to play. But going back on our practice rounds, I'm trying to save as much energy as I can for the actual event, because what you don't realize is playing tournament golf is pretty taxing on you. It takes a lot of energy to do. If you're used to playing golf in a 4-hour round, like as we've kind of mentioned, tournament play is going to always be slower. Plus, you have to be locked in for that entire time. You've got to be focused. So it takes a lot of energy to be able to maintain that focus for that amount of time. I don't want to waste my energy in a practice round. I'm there to see the golf course, hit a couple shots. I might chip and putt a little bit around the greens where I can see them putting a pin placement here. Made a couple putts to that part of the green, but I'm not hitting 2 balls in every hole.
That's why I see too many people make mistakes with is they play too much golf during practice rounds. I mean, that's if I didn't do my prep before the event of getting my body ready, no chance I would have played as well as I actually did last week. Yeah. Now, I was actually able to walk 22 holes. I got into a playoff for final spot and 2 alternates. End up having to play 22 holes. I was gassed the next day. But during the round of golf, like I think the practice round, I was done at 2:00. I hit maybe 30 balls after and went home because I knew if I stayed 30 minutes longer, I mean, that's energy, that's expending energy there that
let me also preface
I didn't have
as well too and this is something also you don't think about, but if you're traveling and playing in a tournament, you're not sleeping in your own bed. And I mean, I've said it before, like I don't sleep as well in a hotel room, so I'm not recovering and recuperating as much as I do normally.
Except unless you're Louis Oosthuizen.
You bring your mattress with you.
I can't afford that.
What a life.
So, I mean, going back to that expenditure of energy and having to kind of watch how you're doing that, that's my whole game plan is how I got to still have energy for that last round.
Yeah. Now, Kyle, you're essentially getting into playing more tournament golf. What would you say has been the biggest change from playing casual golf to now you're getting back? Now you're starting to play more tournament golf.
Well, I think the mistake I made, that way I can just start with the mistake on making tournament prep was, my appendix decided to make it a brief exit. So I went 6 weeks without touching a club and realistically no exercise, nothing. I was 2 weeks after I was medically cleared, jumping into my first event ever.
Right.
Yeah.
So even though I felt confident and ready, and my body felt good, 6 holes in, my body shut itself down.
Yeah.
I mean, after 6 holes, I couldn't make a full turn. I think a little bit of it mentally too is I didn't mentally prepare. I was thinking more about my side than I was making a golf swing. Right. I think the biggest change so far too is trying to take as much pressure off of yourself and rely on your golf game, not your thoughts. I think a lot of us, especially if you're in our world where you work a full-time job in golf, you don't play every day, we put a lot, especially as a golf professional, we put this expectation on ourselves because we're a golf professional. Everyone thinks we have to shoot 63 to play good golf. And realistically, I think last week at, even the U.S. Open qualifier, I mean, you had 6 birdies, 6 birdies on the card. But there's a lot of guys, some well-accredited players that finished at even par.
Right. But let's be honest, even par was still a good score for that round.
Exactly. I mean, that's the whole thing is, so I think that's kind of been my biggest thing is realizing that it's not about the expectation of others. It's self-accountability and putting the work in myself. You can't rely on other people. Sure, they're there to help. Like you have your swing coaches. If you're someone who wants a mental coach, I guess that's great. But being able to put the work in yourself So I think that's been the biggest thing is changing the mindset of I'm not just bombing driver wherever and getting up and down. It's like, if I make this putt, chances are it puts me in contention versus if I make this putt, it's a birdie or it's $2 from a skin. Right. So I think the mindset has changed a lot, and especially, we've got the pro assistant at River Landing soon. So my prep will, all of us will start prepping for that. So I'm going to start trying to walk 9 holes and just kind of get back into golf shape, and then food. I think that's one thing as we travel for these tournaments, just like you alluded to with the bed. Most of the time we're trying to make it as affordable as possible. So we're staying at cheap motels that doesn't have a kitchen.
Or we're splitting an Airbnb with 6 or 7 people.
Yeah, just to make it affordable.
Which is a good time.
Yeah, right. It's fun.
Because tournament golf isn't cheap golf.
No.
So I think one thing that has changed is with fast food in these restaurants is what we're putting in our body before we tee off or before we play in these tournaments. I feel like that's played a big intricate role in why we're seeing these guys hit the ball further, and have more energy is they're eating cleaner food.
Yeah.
They're not doing the John Daly method of let's go to Hooters and McDonald's and then try to play golf.
I said they all have a dietitian with them.
Yeah.
Or in their.
Where us normal people, we don't. We're trying to ball out on a budget. So that dollar menu at McDonald's is pretty appealing, but realistically, if we go from clean eating, travel, and then just eat fast food the entire time, we're not going to feel great on the golf course.
Well, I was going to say, that brings up a good point because my caddy did an awesome job of keeping me fueled last week.
Kale chips.
There were some granola bars. There's some, but how often have you guys played golf where you didn't eat anything during the round of golf?
I hate eating during a round of golf.
Well, you're different, but for the most part though, during the round of golf when you're mentally
right. I get that you have to maintain, you have to continue to fuel your body. I don't know. Something about playing a round of golf, I don't like eating stuff.
Yeah. Well,
not even a glizzy at the turn.
Well, that's different, but that's also the casual round of golf. It's not a tournament.
Yeah. But I would say for me especially, I don't eat when I play a normal round of golf. Okay. I might get a snack or something like that. Hot dog at the turn. Absolutely. But for the most part, I don't continue to eat. And my biggest thing is I don't drink a lot of water. I don't drink anything a lot during a round of golf. So
Sun drunk.
Typically, but I'll have it in a cart, and I get done with the round. I'm like, it's warm, and I didn't drink any of it. And I think about everything so much during the round of golf.
You shut that part of your brain off.
I forget to actually hey, you should probably drink some water. Hey, so caddy last week did a good job, finished the hole. Hey, you should eat something. You want an apple? You want this?
Hope you paid him well.
Oh, he that's the biggest thing is qualifiers that doesn't have a purse, so. He volunteered his time, which was greatly appreciated.
He got him a bag of cashews. It worked
out. And then Kyle, right quick, touching on your comments about mentally and kind of setting expectations. I say something I have always worked on, and for myself internally, things that I try to work on personally in my golf game. In a long round of tournament golf, it's a grind. So I always try to set myself up to expect a grind before going into it. I don't expect to play, if it's a 3-round tournament, 3 easy rounds of golf. I expect to play 3 rounds of golf where I'm going to have to grind. So I'm setting my expectations to anticipate having to work very hard.
Now, Caleb, to the average listener, what does grind mean? Like when you say you're going to grind for 3 rounds, what does that mean?
That means that 3 or 4 footer for par, or maybe even for bogey, it means just as much as the tee shot back there did. Okay. Every shot means a shot. I'm trying to save as many strokes as I possibly can. So every chip shot, every approach shot, it all means something. So part of that grind and that process for me, and something that I know I struggle with, is staying engaged in a round of golf.
In the moment.
For the entire round of golf.
Yep.
Right? Because when we're out there for a 6-hour round of golf in tournaments, it's easy to let your mind wander. So that's something that I work on is I try to, in tournament round of golf, be ready, switch it on, and be engaged in every shot I take. And I really don't want to pull the trigger unless I have fully engaged and thought my way through that shot. Before the tournament, I'm prepping myself to get ready to do that for however many rounds of golf that tournament is, which is obviously a mental taxing.
Guess I should only watch Can't Lay. play then to mentor?
Well, just because I'm doing that doesn't mean I'm taking a long time to do it.
Well, I was
a
gonna
lot
say,
of that I'm doing before it's even my chance to hit. I'm doing it.
Our round
Well, my
last
players are
week, and USG was ready to put us on the clock, but it was not my fault.
I've said every slow player ever.
I'm not slow. It goes without saying though, like when it's your time to hit, like I was ready, but at the same time, like I really slowed myself down to make sure that I was fully prepared for that exact golf shot. Right. Now, I wanted to bring up a point because let's just say you got a buddies trip coming up and it's a tournament and you're bragging rights, right? That's equally as important as my tournaments I play in. So how often does the normal golfer try to hit a shot that he's never hit before or can hit?
Probably almost every hole.
So if you play a tournament round, this goes for both you guys, would you try hitting a shot that you really don't have in your golf bag?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. How often do you see a normal golfer do that?
As I say, almost every hole. Almost every hole.
Yeah. So, and that comes with why the best players in the world and why really good tournament players are as good as they are is they play within themselves. And what that means is essentially if you fade the ball 10 yards every single time, you should not try to draw the ball to a left pin location.
Right.
And majority, 90% of the other golfers in the world, the reason why they're high handicaps is because they think they can shape shots both ways. How many times do we get someone in the bay that says, oh, let me hit a cut real quick, let me hit a draw. And I'm like, you're a 14 handicap. You're just not going to do that.
Or the push cut fade.
Hey, sign me up for that, though. I like
That's one of my favorites. What's your ball flight? I play a push cut fade.
Well, how often do you hear someone say, I play it straight?
Yeah.
Almost never.
Oh, gosh. It's like every fitting I get. That
Really?
someone's like, I was like, do you hit a draw? Do you hit a fade? I hit it straight.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, yeah, you're right. They do. And then after watching them, I'm like, okay, well, you're a 15-yard slice or a 15-yard cut or you're a 15-yard draw.
Yeah, but, and I would say back to kind of the tournament prep, though, it's, if you're going to play a serious round of golf, right, and you're left with a shot that you have to hook it, but you don't have hook in your arsenal, punch out, lay up, play the smart shot. Don't try to hook it. Right. Now, if the circumstance calls for you to have to make a hero shot, that's one thing.
Right.
That was essentially me in the playoff of the event last week. I missed it a little left. It's make or break for one spot. Everyone's in the fairway. I try hooking a 3-iron around a tree, goes in the water on par 5. Get up in town for par, make it to the next hole, but I knew that was make or break. It essentially knocked me out of getting a U.S. Open spot. Or the sectional spot. Yeah, sectional spot. But that's different. But if I'm in a par 5, if I was there in the normal round of golf, would I be trying to hit that shot? Absolutely not. Absolutely.
It depends. If you're playing your casual round of golf with your buddies, yeah, you'll probably try that shot out.
I don't know. I don't have a 3-iron hook in my bag. 3 wood, that's different. But you got to make sure that you're always playing within yourself.
Correct.
Well, awesome. If you guys could give one piece of advice to kind of sum up tournament prep, what would that piece of advice would you give someone who's playing in their first tournament?
Don't be afraid to learn. Because it's a learning. If you're playing your first tournament, it's a learning experience. You don't really. No one can tell you how to prepare for a golf tournament until you have done it, because it's different for everyone. Yeah. Quite honestly, right?
And
so be ready to learn if you're playing in your first tournament, and set some time aside for you to sit down and reflect on that golf tournament, how it went, the things you did, the things you felt, and how do you go through correcting those things or improving how you feel during a tournament round.
I would say is if you're playing in your first tournament, set up a game plan, right? Map the course out. Spend some time the night before, mapping out kind of. It's not and biggest thing is I would say biggest advice is don't set a score. Do not give yourself expectations. Do not say I want to shoot 72 or 74 tomorrow. Don't do that to yourself, because I promise you it's never going to work out.
I think it's okay to set expectations.
But
not scores.
Yes, not scores. Expectations as in like I want to make sure that I put myself in the right positions on these holes. This hole, I know it's a really tough hole. hey, I always tell myself on a tougher hole, I'm okay making a bogey, but it's just mentally preparing for me not to be able to blow up, right? So if you're playing in your first event, make sure you kind of map out, set yourself up for that, the day before. That way, when you roll into play, the nerves, it's hard to describe how it feels.
Let's be clear. It's okay to be nervous.
It's extremely. I've played in a lot of tournaments. I was still extremely nervous over like the first 4 holes last week.
It just means that you care.
Yeah. So, and then I would say we talked about this the other day, Kyle. Whatever happens after that first tournament, don't beat yourself up. Right. You got to put yourself in the arena. Okay.
A tournament result does not define who you are as a person.
Yeah, because that's probably my best advice I could give as someone who's been there. I mean, I've played with people who are capable of shooting 62, 63 on command, shoot 87 in a tournament.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
So if you're going into your first tournament, and let's say you are a scratch golfer +1 and you shoot 87, you're still a scratch golfer or a +1. You had a bad round of golf. Don't let that one bad round of golf deter you from playing in tournaments. Don't let it be the one round that kind of decides, I'm never playing in a tournament again. I'm never playing in a member again because I played a bad round of golf. And just because it's one bad round of golf, it doesn't define who you are as a golfer.
Yeah. And I would say too, because those who continue to not play as well as they probably should in tournaments, they probably don't do enough post-round review after their turnarounds to see, go through each hole after your round and see, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, my nerves were at a 7, and I probably should have hit a 6-iron. Instead, I tried hitting a hard 7-iron. You have to go map that out so you can learn. It's all a learning experience. Trust me, you're never going to have it. Right. That's the thing about this game. It's super humbling. So one day you think you got it, the next day it's gone.
I was going to say the golf gods, they have a wicked sense of humor. They going into your first tournament, be ready. Expect every bad break, every bad bounce, everything possible to go wrong.
And if you shoot your worst score,
and be ready to just roll with the punches.
Yeah. If you shoot your worst score after that round, sign up for the next tournament. Right. Don't you don't need to go back and
throw a pity party.
Right. Well, trying to reinvent the game.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Just got to keep getting those tournament reps in. Right. Because that's how do you get better? Keep trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was not particularly a good player in college. Coming out when I first turned pro, I had some solid events, but I was constantly having those underwhelming scores, and I realized it was an expectation thing. Yeah. My dad gave me the best advice ever. Why are you so mad? You're not good.
Well, it goes back to what you said earlier. You can only control yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So control what you can control.
Even though I don't practice or play a lot, I feel like I'm gonna be way better of a player now than I was when I was practicing playing every day.
If you had the mental fortitude now that you didn't have 15 years ago or whatever,
I'd be at Quail this week. I'm kidding.
Nope.
Well, great. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Tune in next week for the next episode. If you haven't done already, like and subscribe on YouTube. And we'll catch you next time.
Awesome.